Hello, I'm Enrique Roblonsky, and this is Conversations with Our Elected Officials. Today we talk to Ulster County Executive Mike Hein from the city of Kingston, the county seat of Ulster County, New York. Kingston is located 91 miles north of New York City and 59 miles south of Albany, the capital. Kingston also has the distinction of being the first capital of New York State and to be at the center of the beautiful Hudson Valley. Thanks for having us today with you.
Enrique, thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. Hey, since when have you been in office? I think that's a question that everybody really wants to know about their public officials. Sometimes it looks like they have been there for a long time and nobody really knows.
Absolutely. What really happened in Ulster County is fairly unique. In Ulster County, we changed our entire form of government. So I've been in office since 2009, and I am the first and only county executive that Ulster County has ever had. I feel very lucky. I've had wonderful support from our community. I've been elected 3 separate times here, and again, I've been very blessed. And as a result, we've been able to accomplish a great deal.
So what have you been doing before being elected to county executive office?
Well, immediately before, I was something called the county administrator.
Okay.
But prior to that, before I came into government, I was a bank manager. So I was in commercial finance, and that's really where my background is, really in the private sector. And that private sector mentality has really served us well here in Ulster County. It's allowed us to be much more nimble than a regular, typical government you would find.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been allowed us to really respond to a government. When I first came into office, if we were a private sector business, we would be on the verge of bankruptcy. But the good news is, fast forward now 8 years, we're one of the most financially sound county governments in the entire Hudson Valley.
So why politics? When so many people is asking, I would never go into politics. Why did you decide to shift and jump into the arena?
It's a great question. I mean, this was really a place where I was born and raised. And so when I looked at what was going on in my community, I had a wonderful conversation with my wife of 28 years, Christine, and she asked a very basic question. She said, if people with professional skill sets don't get involved in moments of crisis, well, then what will happen to our government? And that was a very difficult question for me to answer because, again, I traditionally, when I first looked at elected officials, I didn't have a great deal of faith in elected officials. I didn't believe that many politicians had the best interests of their constituents at heart, and so I didn't really like politicians very much. But when I came into office and made the decision to run, I found 2 things. One, there are some extraordinary elected officials who are really committed to doing things right. Sure, there are those folks that we read about in the newspapers and we see on television who have done terrible things, and for them they should be held to the highest standard. But there are also hard-working individuals, just like in every profession, that are very focused on doing the right thing. And that's what we set out to do, and we have been so blessed in how successful we have been.
So what do you tell a young person that is successful in his private life, in his work life, and wants to give back to the community? How do they start?
Well, again, you have to follow your passion. And I've always believed that, whatever you are doing, I was passionate about trying to make this community a better place.
You probably didn't wake up one day and say, I will put my name for county executive, and you walked and said to your friends, this is what I will do. And no, there was a process really to jump into politics. What's that process for somebody that is listening and somebody that perhaps thinks about jumping into politics and might think, well, you need to have a lot of money, you need to have a big machine behind you. How
Sure.
will I do it if I am just myself?
I think one of the keys to the whole process, and I think that conversation really speaks to how the system in many ways is broken. It shouldn't be a situation where a highly qualified individual that doesn't have huge financial resources is somehow boxed out of the system. But in many cases that does take place. That wasn't the case because I was really the first. There really wasn't that kind of a predetermined system out there. And so I had the luxury of coming in and simply speaking directly to the people of my community. For an individual now who wants to get into elected office, I always say, first and foremost, start with the passion. And then realize that the next step is your ability to communicate with other people and make sure that you're working for something that is far above your own personal wants and needs. And instead, you're putting other people's wants and needs above your own. And in that process, you've at least started with the right base. You care more about other people, and you understand. But the way I convey it to people is, it's not about winning the race to me. It's about how many people I can bring across the finish line with me. And if you think about it in those terms, you're at least starting with the right platform. When it comes to trying to actually run for office, there's a physical process to this. You need to work with your local officials. You need to work with, again, the local political parties. I've been very fortunate. There are, again, I am a proud Democrat, and we have wonderful Democratic policies and wonderful Democratic committees in Ulster County. And we have, in many ways, we started out as an island of success for Democrats in upstate New York, and now that's continuing to grow, and we're very proud of that.
Very good. And switching to something else.
Sure.
I have been reading the latest estimates from the United States Census Bureau, and in terms of population for the county.
Sure.
And right now, Hispanics make up the first minority in the county.
Yes.
What does that mean for the county, this growing population, Hispanic population? Also because, according to a 2015 study by Patterns for Progress, the Hudson Valley as a whole and all the cities and towns are experiencing negative growth. More people leave the county or die than the ones that are born in the region, except for the Hispanic population.
Correct.
So what does it mean for Ulster County?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's just another chapter in the book that really is America, the Hudson Valley, Ulster County. We're very excited about what this means. What it means is a growth of an entire community. We've seen this in the past. Over the course of the last 200, 225, 230 years, there's been this evolution where different demographic groups come into a community and change it for the better. It's this constant evolution. So I think first and foremost, it's embracing the change. I think it's really exciting for our community to be able to have this entire new members of our community continuing to grow. And then it comes down to, how do we make sure that we're providing the essential services? How do we make sure that we knock down any language barriers that may exist, whether that be through language lines or specific hiring that gets done so services are available to everyone? It's also about making sure that we collectively work and listen to communities on what their needs are. I think that's an important concept as well. So we're looking forward to this, and I think it really is, again, a new chapter in our history, and it couldn't be more exciting to me.
So in those terms, any particular experience that jumps to mind in terms of the contributions of the Hispanic community to the county?
You know, I know that there have been pioneers in every community as they look to expand, and we have been blessed in Ulster County to have many individuals like that. But more than the individuals, it has been the rich heritage of different ethnic groups that have come to our community and then found ways to be able to both embrace their own heritage and simultaneously expand opportunities and diversify the entirety of the community. Really, I would say, make the mosaic even more beautiful. And that's really what's happening here in Ulster County. We have wonderful educators. We have extraordinary business personnel. We have people throughout our community that are amazing. And I think it's also an opportunity to have a real education and growth moment for people who are not of the Hispanic population, and to really be able to find a real understanding and appreciation for the intricate differences within the population, and it's very exciting for us.
Yeah. Last week, I had the opportunity to be with you at the first county-wide Hispanic Heritage Celebration, where you presented awards to outstanding Hispanic citizens. Tell us something about that, how it came about, deciding to do it, and how was the selection process?
Well, I think it is amazing how things can happen. First and foremost, for us, it is one of those opportunities to simply recognize individuals in our community who are doing extraordinary things. And in this particular case, it coincided well with a Hispanic heritage appreciation as well. I mean, that it tied together extremely well. But to me personally, there's also a bigger overarching political thing. I've seen in our nation an atmosphere of divisiveness and vilification and a perspective that I find very disturbing. And so to be able to bring something together in a more unified way as a community and celebrating our differences, I think that was something that was just as important to me about that particular event.
And that was the first one?
The first one. And the first of many, many, many.
Okay, so any plans for the next one to make it even more inclusive? I was really very interested and happy to see that, for one thing, the event took place in Ellenville, not in the main city, Kingston. Correct. Or something. So I thought that was a big plus. Also, a second big plus that I saw was that it was done at a Hispanic establishment of a very successful entrepreneur.
Correct.
But I failed to see the integration of the communities at that event.
Sure. I think that this is what happens when you have the first of anything. You start with something, and I couldn't have been more pleased at the turnout, of the location, of the participation. Everything was wonderful. Then the next step is, how do you make it even better? And identifying those areas where we can improve, always something that we look at when we do anything. And so, again, to be able to find a way to better integrate the community, to make sure that we are choosing the kinds of individuals who are nothing short of extraordinary, is just as important as well. So it's exciting. Again, I look forward to the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. I think that they'll all provide a real opportunity to acknowledge people who are doing amazing things in our community.
Okay, very good. Jumping on to something else.
Sure.
The film industry in Ulster County. Something that a lot of people are talking about.
Sure.
What can you tell us about?
I think it's amazing to watch the change. Leading up until today, again, it was different just a year ago. There was a film tax credit, a post-production film tax credit. And I would say, as a finance person, this couldn't be more boring. But the real truth of the matter is, it's pivotal to make the economics of film production work. Ulster County, along with the Mid-Hudson Valley, was excluded from this film tax credit at the state level. It made us have a competitive disadvantage. And so the only kinds of films that we're really shooting here were small, low-budget films. We fought very hard to change that. It was a discriminatory taxing policy in Albany. We worked extremely hard, made it a pivotal part of my administration, and we succeeded. And so I couldn't be more pleased. Because of that change in tax policy, it's now changed the overall economics. And we've seen a 50% increase in films, and much bigger films being shot here. But the real goal isn't just more films being shot here. It's to be able to attract other parts of the entertainment industry, like post-production work, as well as television series. There's a real opportunity to do something here because of our proximity to the metro New York area. Like you said at the beginning, we are less than 100 miles from Midtown Manhattan, and many people who are decision makers in the entertainment industry have second homes or first homes in our community. And they want to be able to work closer to home, and the change in these economics have really worked. We're also working with local banks in an effort to be able to set up an $8 or $9 million at this point post-production fund to assist these business owners. And here's when I knew it was really paying off. We had a producer who contacted me and asked me to come on set so that he could talk to me about something that was really important to him. And when I got there, what he said to me was something that I will always remember. He said, Michael, this film, and the film was called Departures, was scheduled to be shot in South Africa. And the reason it was scheduled to be shot in South Africa is because the US dollar to the rand, there was a wonderful exchange rate. And it just simply made sense to be able to do it there. And the film industry, just like the entertainment industry in whole, is very mobile. And so he said this was all done, scheduled and ready to go. But for the fact that you change the film tax credit, it allows to film here, and they filmed predominantly in the Kingston area, and left $6 million in our community. And so it is a huge change when you're able to bring this kind of economy changer in this portion of this new sector into our economy that we simply didn't have before, not at this level. We're excited about what that means going forward, and so are many members of our community. They've embraced the arts, and they understand how important this can be right here in Ulster County. And the good news is, the way we set it up, it's not just beneficial for Ulster County. The whole Hudson Valley benefits from this film tax credit as well.
Very good. You mentioned before some of the achievements of your administration, and I want to focus on the 2018 budget.
Sure.
That reduces property taxes, something that everybody likes, and at the same time makes investments in what the county's webpage calls the future of the county.
Sure.
So let me mention some of those points and briefly describe the essence of each.
No problem.
Okay? So, Ulster County Restorative Justice and Community Empowerment Center.
This really is based on this concept that we have to do more to make sure that our young people don't participate in what we call a school-to-prison pipeline. Young people who find themselves at risk and troubled, and then starting down a path where they ultimately end up doing an enormous amount of time in the criminal justice system. So the question really is, how do you do something about this? How do you change the trajectory of someone's life? Well, we first started out by bringing a community college satellite campus right into the heart of the inner city. So that if you could walk to high school, you could then walk to college. So provide greater opportunity. We've also been able to focus a great deal of dollars directly in the Midtown Kingston area, and this is part of that. This Restorative Justice and Community Empowerment Center is designed specifically to provide a different pathway for young people, to be able to take at-risk youth and provide them with real opportunities and real programming and the supports necessary to make sure that they really take a different path in life. And we're very excited about what that can mean.
Infrastructure investment.
Roads and bridges and getting them right are pivotal to any economy and to a community. And again, in Ulster County, Ulster County is a big place. We are geographically the size of Rhode Island. And so we have gone about this very aggressively, saving money in other areas so that we can invest heavily in infrastructure. $60 million over a 4-year window in which we have redone extraordinary parts of our road systems and bridges. And the nice part is not just replacing them what was there before. We've re-engineered bridges so that they're wider and safer and better for pedestrians, and they're more able to withstand things like hurricanes and the other issues that come with climate change. And the same thing with our road systems, especially focused on making sure school safety becomes of paramount importance. And so you're seeing overhauls of signage, overhauls of the widths of the roads and the strengths of the roads. And again, what we are seeing here is, again, wonderful for our local economy as well.
Environmental stewardship.
Ulster County and my administration are very proud of this. We are the only county in New York State that is net carbon neutral. 100% of all of our electrical use comes from renewable resources. And we've done so many things when it comes to alternative fuel vehicles, a whole fleet of them, and a number of major changes that we've made locally that we were recognized in National Geographic in last December, and the centerfold of National Geographic, so we couldn't be more pleased that all the work that we've done to become a really strong environmental stewards was recognized at that kind of a level.
Water quality.
Well, when you think about this, I've always said no one should be forced to drink water and not be sure absolutely certain that it's safe for them or their family. And so in this process of making sure that testing is available for everybody, we've set aside dollars to assist people of low and moderate income who may not be able to afford the levels of testing that are necessary to make sure that they don't ever have to wonder whether or not they're drinking clean water, while simultaneously providing some additional dollars to, if there are issues of contamination, how do we fix it?
Substance abuse prevention programs.
I think when we talk about substance abuse, obviously that cuts a whole broad spectrum of issues, but what most people think about nowadays when they're talking about that is opioid abuse. We have fought extremely hard to make sure that pharmacies take back medication, the unused portions of medication that they didn't used to take back in the past. Because what we were finding is so many unused prescriptions of opioid-based oxycodone and others finding themselves onto the streets and into our children and being used really as a gateway into heroin. And so that's one of many, many, many steps that we're taking in a comprehensive effort to be able to address opioid abuse in our community, because we recognize it's not like any epidemic that we have seen in the past.
Finally, senior safety.
I think anybody who has been blessed enough to have grandparents has felt this exact same way at some point in their existence. And that was, they were concerned about falling, and you were concerned about them falling too. And so for many, they have loving families that have the capacity to be around them all the time. But for some of the most vulnerable seniors, they may not have anyone, and they may not have the financial resources for this. So what we have done is we have provided this lifeline concept for them, as well as Meals on Wheels and a whole host of other things, and transportation to doctors and other things. But this lifeline concept is designed to make sure that if someone does experience a fall, that emergency care can be there immediately. And we can do this for folks with low income at no cost at all. So there are many programs that we do to be able to assist seniors. Again, and one thing that we have come to realize very clearly is, as we worked with the senior population, one overarching issue for everyone was the desire to remain in their home. And so most of the supports that we have built allow people to remain vibrant, healthy, active, and also, most importantly, remain in their home as long as they'd like.
So if there are some seniors that are watching this, is there a website, number, an email that they can contact?
I always urge anyone on the web. It's ulstercountyny.gov. So ulstercounty.gov, ulstercountyny.gov, all will take you to the same place. And we will make sure that you get access to those kinds of contact services and supports. Or at the bare minimum, if someone wants to reach out, there's a very simple number. It's 845-340-3800.
340-3800. 845-340-3800.
Absolutely.
Very
perfect.
good. I was reading that not too long ago you had an encounter with former Vice President Joe Biden. Tell us something about that. How was that meeting?
You know, Joe brought...
From a human perspective.
And that's really the amazing part about this. You know, I come from really modest background. I grew up on a farm. I'm the first person in my family to graduate from college. And so it's always interesting to me, and I've been very fortunate in my position to meet people of great stature all across the world. And to be able to meet people like Joe Biden, who is an extraordinary individual, hardworking, brilliant, but most of all, someone who is very relatable. He's not detached. It's an individual who understands his roots and understands what it's like to be able to see folks that are on hard times and how to help. So having someone who really is in that kind of a leadership position and really was at the highest levels in our government, that still has maintained his heart. And I think that that's a really important part. The humanity of him was the part, I think, that most touched me.
And finally, something that we ask of all our guests, who is Mike Hein?
Well, I mean, to me, it's very simple. First and foremost, I'm a husband and father. The most important jobs that I have of all. I'm the father to a wonderful 18-year-old son. His name is Mickey. And my wife of 28 years, Christine, is nothing short of extraordinary. And focusing on them first, for me, allows everything else to be possible. My wife and I are very focused on helping our community. My wife runs a place called People's Place. It is the largest food pantry in our entire county, and she really is an extraordinary individual. And so with that as a family makeup, it really allows all of this other stuff to be able to grow.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, my friend. Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime. Thanks, and this was ABC Latino, Conversations with our elected officials. Till the next time.